guys and welcome back to my channel. It's Jess. So today I have a recommendations video. I'm going to do a fantasy recommendation, a young adult fantasy recommendation video. I didn't realise how much fantasy I actually read until I looked back on like my Goodreads and realised like 70% of the books that I read are fantasy. I didn't think I was a big fantasy reader until that point. So I wanted to go through some of the ones that I've really loved. Now, don't get me wrong, I have read like a crap ton and like hated some of them, and I found some of them really boring. But these are the ones that I absolutely loved and would love for you guys to read, and let me know what you think. And if you've already read them, please let me know if you love them as much as I love them. So yeah, I'll just get straight into it. I think there's like 10 books here, 10 or 11 books here, and it's going to give you a little bit of information on each of them so you can kind of understand what they're about. There's a mixture here too. It's like paranormal fantasy, historical fiction fantasy, plain out fantasy, kind of romantical fantasy, dystopian fantasy. So there's kind of a mix of everything all in the one. So yeah. First, it's like kind of a staple fantasy recommendation, and that is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. I absolutely adore this book. It is about Alina Starkov. She was orphaned in a war and she gets drafted into the army, and when they're taken out in the army to I don't know what way you'd say it, she's basically put into the war, and on the way there something happens and she shows the lieutenants in this army that she is a Grisha, that she has some dormant power. So she is then whisked away to the Grisha army to be trained, and everything else ensues. Romance ensues, deception ensues, everything. Like, it's just the way it's written, you feel like you're there. So this orphan girl who's never had any kind of riches or anything is basically put into a situation where she's receiving everything she ever wanted. And yeah, if that sounds like your cup of tea, give it a go. I'm sure everyone at this stage has read this book. The next one is Fallen Kingdoms by Morgan Rhodes. This is one of my favourite fantasy series. It is kind of like Game of Thrones for young adult. It's not so intimidating to read. I'm not going to go into too much detail because this is what makes this book great, this whole series great, but I'll just read it back for you. Three Kingdoms Battle for Power. A princess must journey into enemy territory in search of magic long thought extinct. A rebel becomes the leader of a bloody revolution. A sorceress discovers the truth about a supernatural legacy she is destined to wield. It's the eve of a war, each must choose a side, kingdoms will fall. It's told in the point of view of, I think, three people, and it's about their situation in this kind of brewing war that's coming to this world. It's just amazing. It's basically, it really is, it reminds me of like Game of Thrones, and it's just amazing. So that's that one. I then have one that could be classed as fantasy. I'm classing it as fantasy because it's kind of paranormal fantasy, and that is Bad Girls Don't Die. This is one of my favourite books of all time. Take away the whole favourite fantasy, it's like one of my favourite books of all time. It's really creepy. Like, I haven't read many books that have actually like creeped me out to the point where I had to put it down or like find my boyfriend in the house and kind of just sit with him so I knew I wasn't alone in the house. But it's basically about a girl called Alexis who has a small sister called Casey, who finds an antique doll who becomes obsessed with it. Then she carries it everywhere, she won't let it leave her sight, and then just strange things start happening. In their house, their doors start banging, things start moving around, her sister's eyes change colour. She's using like an old-fashioned language, and yeah, I'm not going to go into more detail because that's the only thing I can say without spoiling it, but there's a lot more to it, and I would really recommend this to anyone who's looking for a good kind of paranormal-esque read or a scary read. And look at that cover. Like, that's terrifying. To me, that is terrifying. Like, next I have one that I talk about a lot, and that is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. I was going to say Ernest Hemingway. Ernest Cline. and I think at this stage everybody knows what this book is about. But it's basically about a guy. This guy, Wade Watts, is kind of living in a dystopian future where there is a game called Oasis where you can enter, and like the better you do in the game, the more rich you become. So your social standing in Oasis kind of mirrors your social standing in real life, and in real life he lives in like a trailer that's stacked upon another trailer, which you can kind of see here on the cover. Then when the creator of Oasis dies, he leaves Easter eggs and promises whoever gets to the end of the Easter eggs will take control of the company and have all the riches they ever desired and have complete control of Oasis. It's kind of like a futuristic Charlie and the Chocolate Factory kind of plotline. But yeah, this movie's actually out as well, I think in a couple of weeks and months, but yeah, that's that one. I then have Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. Robin Hobb is one of my favourite fantasy authors, which I just love him. But this is about a guy called Fitz, and it's basically about this whole series. There's like, I think there's 4 books in the series, or 3 books in the series. But it's about Fitz's life, and in this small, this is literally the smallest book in the series. It's about Fitz's childhood and him figuring out he has this power, this kind of connection to animals. He can speak to them in their mind. It's like speaking to them in the mind sounds really rudimentary to what actually it is. It's like he can empathise with the animals, and like he can make them relax, and but like that's frowned upon. So he is basically beaten into submission to do what is thought of right of someone of his standing. He is a bastard child of one of the princes, but it's never actually said, like it's never actually acknowledged by anyone in the book. Only the guy who is raising Fitz knows 100% who his father is. Like the rest of them, like they make comments, but it's never actually like the other princes never actually acknowledge that he is their nephew. They always kind of make just rude comments towards him, and basically like it's about him growing up and how hard he has it. But it's really amazing start to an amazing series. So that's that one. I then have Graceling by Kristin Cashore, and this is about a girl called, I'm gonna say it wrong, Katsa, and it's about people in this world are born with graces, and her grace is killing, and she is hired by the king, basically his assassin. But when the king's father is kidnapped, it's up to Katsa to figure out who took him, why they took him, and she suddenly realises this is her way out of killing because she doesn't want to do it anymore. So I think everyone has heard of this book at some point, but it's absolutely amazing. The writing is amazing. I can't believe there's only 3 books in this trilogy. Like in this, I feel like this could have been like a much longer series, and she could have built much more on this world because it's absolutely amazing. I then have one again that's kind of more paranormal-ish, and that is The Hollowed Ones by Laura Bickle. And this is about a girl called Kate who is from an Amish community in America. It's coming up to her Rumspringa, and she cannot wait to get out. She has been living for her Rumspringa to experience life outside, when suddenly massive disappearances in the world are going on, and really atrocious and horrible things are happening, and the elders in the community can't figure out why it hasn't hit them yet. They were kind of expecting it to hit them, but it hasn't. So they then decree that the reason that these horrors aren't entering their community is because they are God's people. So they banish anyone from this community from leaving or letting anyone in. But when Kate finds an injured man in a barn one night, she cannot leave him there. So she brings him in and brings some other stuff in with her too. But it's just it's dystopian-ish, because the world basically ended in this, but it's really, really good. It's a jumpy kind of thriller. It's really well done, and it's interesting to read about like that kind of community, the Amish community, because like you don't read a lot of novels that are set in that kind of community. So yeah, that's that one. I then have Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson, and this is about Princess, what's her name? Princess Leia. Princess Leia, who on her wedding day runs away, and the king of the opposite court, the king of, I think it's the king of the prince, the father of the prince that she was meant to marry, then sends out an assassin to find her. But the prince also goes to find her, and it doesn't tell you which boy is which. So you're reading the story not knowing which one is the assassin and which one is the prince. So romance ensues, and she falls for one of the men who are tracking her. She starts to fall in love with them, but you don't know until the end if it's the prince who's falling in love with or the assassin and what's going on. It's really amazing, it's really well done, it's really suspenseful. So you kind of spend the whole book kind of going like, come on, tell me who's who. So yeah, it's really good, and like, come on, who doesn't love a book with a map? Like, that's just amazing. So yeah, I then have a no-brainer here, one that everyone loves and talks about, and that is A Court of Thorns and Roses. This is I hate saying that it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, because it's really not. It's like the first book has that kind of feel to it, but after that there is no resemblance. It's based in a world where fairies and fae and human exist together, but they don't mix, and suddenly a human is taken to the fae world to pay for a debt that she has taken upon herself, and war is coming soon too. So it's a kind of suspenseful whole trilogy. The fourth book, I think it's a companion series, but I'm not too sure. I just finished reading this whole trilogy, and it's amazing, and I think at this stage everyone is sick of hearing of this book, but it's definitely one of my top recommendations. And lastly, I think that's it, lastly I have The Winner's Curse by Marie Rotowski. I'm saying that right. And this is about a general's daughter whose name, Kestrel, who is going, it's kind of a dystopian historical fiction, I think, historical fantasy, who is walking through town one day and sees slaves up for auction, and she sees this guy and she instantly makes a connection with him, so she bids on him and she takes him back. And then I can't say more than that without really ruin the whole plot, but yeah, romance soon follows, and it's hard for her to hide from her father how she's feeling for this servant that she shouldn't be feeling for anything. He shouldn't be feeling anything for, and trouble ensues, and there is imminent war on the way. So it's really good, it's really well put together and really well done, and it's one of my top recommendations. I read this a couple of years ago, and I've just finished this series. I think it's a trilogy, but I read the last book out, I think it was last year, and it was just amazing. So yeah, definitely recommend this. I think that's it. If you guys have any recommendations for me, I'd love to hear them in the comments below. And yeah, please like this video and subscribe, and talk to me on my social media. The links will be down below, and I'll talk to you all soon. Bye!